their little hands began glowing. They both turned round and saw us.
Hello, Cynical here again. I started doing this blog as a dark and light-hearted response to some of the idiosyncrasies and absurdities of the modern world. I look at some of the ridiculous acceptances of modern life through my splintered, shattered, shit-spattered specs, my morose-coloured glasses. At subjects we take for granted and whose functioning we accept without question, from science to religion and law to love. The views expressed in these are my own personal rage against the machine. They do not necessarily represent my real views of anything. Just sometimes, as my daughter would say, you've got to call bullshit. You know, much of my ranting is just the consequence of being lied to by the establishment for so long. I've been trying to understand how we've been placed in an almost paralysing state of cognitive dissonance by the crazy paradoxes of life and the many discordant and contradictory values that we've been encouraged to embrace. We know that much of what is happening globally is damaging to us, both collectively and individually, yet we continue to behave in a self-destructive way. And yes, it makes us feel shit, but hey, what can you do? Examples of our behaviour are things like we're concerned about climate change, yet driving an unnecessarily large car, or banging your foot down too hard on the accelerator, or taking far off foreign holidays. We always have good reasons for being a hypocrite, but that's what we are. Day after day, we make countless feeble excuses to ourselves for our behaviour as our shame grows gradually, incrementally, so slowly, in fact, that we're hardly aware of its debilitating effects. We feel shame at the sight of homelessness and bewilderment at the plight of refugees. How can we allow it? How can we stop it? There's nothing we can do. You know your 50p for a cup of tea doesn't change a thing, nor does your £10 a month direct debit to Oxfam or whoever. We know we should love ourselves, but how lovable do we feel? When nothing appears to be true, you stop believing anything. I don't know what to believe. We seem to be kept in a state of media-induced, constantly unresolved confusion. There's no alternative to fake news. There's no true news. Anyone who produces news has an agenda. It just depends whether you agree with it or not that makes it true or otherwise. I just know that if I'm told it's for your own good, it probably isn't. Deception is all about us, both the human world and the natural world. Things are seldom as they appear. We only perceive splinters of reality, tiny, whirling, sparkling, flashing moments of eternity, everything in continual motion, energy moving in all directions simultaneously, each one of us having their own subjective perspective experience of this fragmented explosion of phenomena. Sorry, I think I just had a mushroom flashback there. Anyway, why lie? As a young person, I was perhaps a bit naive and maybe a bit lazy. It was easier to believe people than not. Why would my parents or teachers or government, or anyone else for that matter, lie to me? My parents and teachers passed on to me what they believed to be correct. They couldn't have known any better than we do as to what the fuck's really going on in the world, or what we perceive to be the world anyway. Governments deliberately lie. For example, the invasion of Iraq. But does that mean all politicians are liars, or even intrinsically dishonest? I can't answer that. I do believe at least some politicians enter politics with good intentions and wish to serve their country, and that many were once decent people. But power corrupts, and look what you end up with. I suppose when the penny dropped with a plop in a puddle of piss, I became disgruntled and very cynical. Fool me twice, as George Bush said, although you could probably fool that daft bastard again and again and again. Not even an idiot can argue that we're not completely dependent upon the well-being of the earth. If the earth dies, we die. Yet humanity, particularly in the West, lives as if we're in a race to destroy the biosphere as quickly as possible. Where's the sense in that? Are we a species that's gone completely insane? And it's about a lot more than so-called climate change or global warming. The earth is under attack from mineral extraction, including fracking, oil wells. Then there's depletion and pollution of the groundwater, not to mention landfill leakage and the products of the civilian and military nuclear industries. Then there's the poisoning and depleting of the soil and the destruction of plant and animal life, and repurposing the land and spraying it with badly researched chemicals, whether it's pesticides or fertiliser. The air is unbreathable in many cities. You want unbreathable air? It's an oxymoron. It's not air if you can't breathe it. Tap water, if not undrinkable, tastes horrible. Contains recycled urine and is loaded with obnoxious chemicals like aluminium sulfate. The sea is full of plastic and other pollutants pouring in from toxic rivers and sewers, countless ships. A large vessel can use up to 300 metric tons of fuel per day. That's a lot of fuel, a lot of oil, and a lot of wars you've got to have to get that. But it's all for our benefit. It's to improve the quality of our lives. Now I look at the world through my shit-stained spectacles. The glass isn't even half empty, because there's no such thing as half empty. Empty's like my reserve tank of hope. The definition of empty is having nothing inside or on the surface, holding or containing nothing. An empty bag, an empty lot, or an empty glass. You can't have half of something that's not there. Half of nothing. There's just nothing, and nothing doesn't exist. Anyway, I digress. Even though much of what I may write or say can be taken as a bit hateful and vile, I say it all with love in my heart. I wish no harm to anyone in any way. I just try to point out some of the most absurd, destructive ironies perpetrated in the world today. And these are some of the reasons to call me Cynical. Thank you very much.